Hi, everyone. Welcome back to She Blurbs Podcast. Today's guest is Chelsea. Hi, Chelsea.
Hi, Brooke.
Thank you for coming on my podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
So, Chelsea is known for The Girl in the Cage, and she was invited on the Oprah show to tell her story, and she's getting her master's in social work. So, when you watch the reruns of your time on Oprah, how did it make you feel?
To be honest, I try not to watch myself on TV. Yeah, I don't enjoy doing that at all. I don't watch any of the interviews I do. I'm not going to watch this after we're done. But I'll share it. But I did watch the 1999 episode, which was called Tortured Children. And the first time I saw that was when I was an adult, like 18 years old. And I remember just feeling so sad for everybody in that episode, including myself, because I knew Oprah aired this episode, but I didn't ever get to see it, so I didn't know who else was on it or what was on it, and it was just really sad.
Wow. Yeah, because before we was talking, you told me that she had 3 of the child abuse kids on the show, and one of them didn't make it. Like, that made me sad. Like,
I know.
Yeah, definitely. Oh man. So do you ever feel like the justice system failed you, like on how they did your birth parents, like how they were sentenced to just 1 year in prison or in jail?
I get asked this question a lot. And they definitely failed. I didn't actually know originally like how or why they failed. I just thought like 1 year, that's not fair. But I actually was able to go back and read all the journal entries, and this was a very public case. Everybody was writing about it. And I have copies of the transcripts of the trial, and there are so many things that were missing in the trial that my parents were not charged for, or certain things that were just dismissed because there was no evidence of it. And ultimately that played such a big factor in their sentencing, is because there just was no proof.
Right.
What a psychologist who testified said that she could have been locked in the cage for an hour total, or she could have been in there for a day or a week or a month. And I think that was just really telling, because my version is it was years of being locked up. And so they just weren't held accountable for that.
Yeah. I mean, even if you were locked up in the cage for an hour, that's still abuse. Like, you don't put your child in a cage. Like, who does that? Like, that's still abuse. Like, I was speaking with a child doctor, and he came on my podcast, and he was like, well, talking about spanking your kid. Like, in my opinion, I don't think kids should be spanked, because why would you spank them and have whips on their backs? Like, that's abuse to me. I just don't think kids should be hit. But
it just causes lifelong trauma, like it's not just something that affected me when I was a child, which it did immensely, but I have to live with this experience the rest of my life, and I have to overcome a lot just because of this happening.
Yes, exactly. So this is one of the questions outside of the questions that just popped in my head. So when your children get older, are you going to tell them your story, or are you just going to leave it alone when they get of age, like maybe 16, 17, when they understand?
They definitely know that like my childhood wasn't exactly like their childhoods. They know that something was different about it, but they don't know exactly why. Especially my 12-year-old. He definitely like knows, but he doesn't understand.
Mhm.
In if he wants to know when he's a grown up, absolutely. I think it's really important that you know your genealogy so that
Mhm.
you don't repeat it to your own children.
Exactly.
And that's also why I am writing my book, is
Yes.
so that one day they can go back and they can just choose to read my book if they would like, and they
Yeah.
can learn whatever they want to know.
Yeah.
So
Wow. That's amazing. I couldn't imagine like being a parent and then having to tell your children that when they get of age, like going through what had happened to you and how you felt and stuff. Like, just breaks my heart.
my
Um,
children are like super innocent too. They're like
yeah.
so sweet. They believe in everything good in the world. And
Mhm.
so I don't really want to crush their spirits with
Yeah.
like, such a sad story. And
Mhm. Definitely. So, I know one never forgets how they were treated as a child. How are you healing from your past? Like, how have you healed?
um it has been a lifelong journey.
Mhm.
Um, when I was a child, it was really hard. I had no idea what was going on in my life at any
Mhm.
given moment. I didn't
Mhm.
know where I was going to live after
Wow.
my um, parents, if you want to call them, after they were arrested. No, I know, but I know what to
No.
call them. Yeah, so like in the media attention added an element into my upbringing as well, because it just like blew up. And I was
Mhm.
just like 8, 9 years old when this was happening, and I just like didn't understand why people were sending gifts and why people were like paying attention to me.
Mhm.
And at school, my peers found out about it being on Oprah through their parents.
Mhm.
Um, and they would tease me for being locked in a dog cage.
What?
Yeah, so it was really hard as a child, just like overcoming the shame I felt, the embarrassment of my story. But the more that I talk about my story, the more that I'm comfortable with it, and
Mhm.
the more I feel like I heal from it.
Mhm.
I'm in my 30s today, so this happened like a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
So I would say I'm a pretty like
Yeah.
average person today. You wouldn't know unless I told you.
Mhm. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Because it took me forever to find you. Because I was like, I don't think that's her. Like you look completely different. Way better. But you look completely different. I'm like, wow.
I'm a big kid now, so look a little different.
I did want to ask you. This is another question outside the question I was going to ask you. But were you adopted or did you stay with family members, like of your birth parents' family? Like, did they ever? Did they ever come into your rescue or do anything? Or
They tried. Well,
Mhm.
okay, so as like an actual child when I was still living in the abusive situation,
Mhm.
nobody did anything.
Mhm.
I don't know if they didn't know. I think it's pretty obvious. Like, I have a picture of my second birthday, and there's a full handprint on the side of my face.
What?
So to me, it's like pretty obvious, but
Yeah.
but after my parents or my biological parents were arrested,
Mhm.
we were placed with family or relatives. There's 5 of us, okay, who were all very traumatized and reacted in very different ways to that trauma. And so it just wasn't working to keep us together.
Mhm.
So eventually we started like slowly breaking off. Like
Mhm.
one sibling would go to his biological father's house and start living with him, and then another would go into foster care. And eventually I landed in foster care, a foster home.
Mhm.
who did adopt me. That's where my last name comes from. But hopefully either in my first book or my second book, I can also address my experience in the foster care system, because that's also like another beast of itself.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Because I interviewed the football player that I was telling you about earlier, and he was in the foster care system, so he had a few stories. I never even thought about that. And like people were telling me, because I want to be a mother, but I don't know if I want to give birth. And they was like, well, you could try fostering a kid. You're a very sweet woman. I'm like, oh, I might. I don't know. I'm scared. But I might.
Yeah, we need foster parents, good foster parents.
Oh yeah, I'll think about it now. Now I'll think about it.
You should.
So, how are you going to use your degree when you graduate from with your social work degree?
I'm not positive. I know. I think I want to work with children. I've worked with children for the past decade or so, just in my other job. And so I'm not sure which population I want to work with, whether it's going to be adults or children. But what I do know is I want to make an impact on the lives of others. If I can just help them with coping mechanisms, things that I have learned, that have helped me become a productive adult. I mean, that's really all I can ever hope for.
Yeah,
You know?
definitely. I feel like you're doing a great job so far. Like you look really happy, and your kids look really happy. So yeah, I feel like you're doing a great job.
They are very happy children. Yes.
Oh yeah, yeah. So how did you? We already talked about how you overcome your abuse. You already told us about that. But do you want to tell anything else?
Yeah, I get asked all the time, like, how did you do it? Like, how did you make it through? Because sometimes we can get stuck in this abuse, maybe like victim thinking. And it's just really important to know that, like, if you are struggling, that it's okay to ask for help. Me personally, being able to like read and study my story really helped me to kind of put pieces together as to like why the abuse happened.
Right.
For a long time, I just like blamed myself, and I thought it was something that I did or caused, because in the trial I was being blamed. Or I mean, that's a lawyer's job, right? Is to protect their clients and make it look like it's the children's fault for the abuse that happened. But yeah, getting therapy and just being really real and vulnerable with yourself is the key, in my opinion.
Right. Wow. I agree. I just feel like in your case with the lawyers and stuff, like I feel like they were like saying that the kids were lying about it. Like that's how I feel like they got out, like with only 1 year. Like I felt like they was just like, oh, the kids are lying, they're making up stories. Maybe they were just being punished, but I still don't think that that's a proper way to punish a child, is by putting them in a cage or in a closet or beating them. Like I just don't feel like that's proper punishment for a child, in my opinion.
I mean, they were really bad parents. I mean, they should have stopped having children. They were financially struggling, and on top of it, having more children. And I did learn that I was the byproduct of an affair that occurred. And again, something that never came up in trial. I'm pretty sure my biological mother would have gone to her grave if I didn't discover this. So I think that caused some of the abuse as a child, like their relationship struggles. But yeah, a year is just
it's not
shameful.
Yeah, it's not right. But I want to thank you so much, Chelsea, for coming on my podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
You have a great day.
Bye.
Bye. Hey everyone, I want to thank you all so much for listening to my interview with Chelsea. Her life is pretty private, so I did not link any websites on her interview. I don't have any, I'm not gonna, yeah. So she's a pretty private person. So I hope you all enjoyed this interview, and I hope you all have a great day and make great choices. And please, please, please stand up against child abuse. It is not right. So definitely, if you see something happen, definitely handle it. Thank you all so much. Have a great day. Make great choices. Bye.